I'd like to take a moment to share with you a great conversation that I had with a new client. She's so hilarious. It's my hope that what I shared with her is a help to you the way it was to her. She's 31 years old. She met a man that she's been talking to and dating for the last 6 months. She said, "Doc, I'm coming to you because I was on one of your lives and I heard you screaming to the top of your lungs the word levels. And it really resonated with me because I felt like I'm now in a place in my life where I've met someone who is on my level. And I may be the one that's not showing up as aware in this situation as I need to be." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, he checks all the boxes. Doc, I can't lie. He checks all the boxes, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially. He does it. He follows your work." I said, "So did you hear about me from him?" She said, "No." She said, "Actually, I had heard of you and then I shared with him you and he's been hooked." And he said to her that this is the holistic development people need to go through when they're in therapy counseling. He's 33 years old. She's an accountant. He's an attorney. And they both have very great careers. They're very successful. Neither one of them have children. And they were actually introduced at a dinner party. I said, "Cool." I said, "So what's the problem?" She said, "Well, Doc, he checks all the boxes, yes, but I'll be honest with you. While we're both busy, we're both successful, I just don't like what he gives me sometimes." I said, "What do you mean? What is he giving you?" She said, "Well, he's busy. He's always really busy. He's always working. I don't believe he's seeing anybody else, not at all. He's very trustworthy. We FaceTime quite regularly. He doesn't even really like to talk on the phone. He likes to see my face. I like to see his, but he can't talk to me every day. He's not able to just FaceTime and sit and talk for hours like I used to." And she said in the beginning, it started that way. But then after I would say a month or so, things just kind of went to where I would FaceTime him, but it would be much shorter, or we'd talk and text throughout the day. But sometimes we can't just text back and forth without large breaks in between because we're both busy. I said, "Ma'am, you do realize that for everything you're saying to me, you're giving me an explanation as to why those things aren't the case." I said, "Are you aware of that?" She said, "I am, Doc. And I know I probably sound crazy. And I want you to," she's so funny. She said, "And I want you to share my story. And I know people are going to probably think I'm bugging out because he does check the boxes and he's a healthy guy. I really do believe he's healed." I said, "Do you know his attachment style?" She said, "I think he's secure. I do. I think he's very secure. He very much shows up in a way where he operates in full trust. We live about 2 hours apart. And so we're not near one another, but we do make plans to see each other about every other weekend. And so we spend time then. But he's very trusting. He's very trustworthy. He's a great communicator. He does not easily get rattled when things don't go his way. There have been times he's wanted to see me and I couldn't do it because of work or traveling. He doesn't get all upset or get his panties in a bunch. He might pout a little bit because he really does love me. I believe that. But he doesn't get all protective and he doesn't get defensive when we have disagreements, and he's not possessive at all." She said, "And Doc, I'm not used to that. Like I'm used to a man fawning all over me and always wanting to be near me and always wanting to see me. And now that he's showing me this, I'm starting to wonder if he's really into me." I said, "Are you serious, ma'am?" She laughed. I laughed. She said, "Doc, I'm a thug for real. Like, I'm a thug. Don't think I'm not a thug. I am a thug, Doc. But he just got me really soft. Does he really even want me?" I said, "Ma'am, everything you've described about him does sound secure." I said, "Do you know your attachment style?" She said, "Being around him, before I met him, I thought I was secure." She said, "When I met him, and within the last, I would say 3 to 4 months, as I've been going back and forth with this stuff we're talking about, I'm starting to question if I am secure. That maybe being around him is highlighting that I have a little bit more work to do than what I thought." I said, "Ma'am, you've nailed it." I said, "And this is exactly why I scream out levels all the time when I'm on these lives and I'm talking about this." I said, "Because there are levels. There are a lot of people that think they are healed, that think they are secure until they get around a secure person. And then they realize, wait a minute, I'm not as far along the line as I thought I was." And I said, "This is why this self-awareness work is important. This is why being healed in the 5 areas of healing is important, because you got to be honest about where you are. And I said, ma'am, I think you're a wonderful person. I said, but the fact that you can admit that maybe you're anxious and he's secure would mean that you all are on 2 different levels. Can it work? Sure, it can. It's possible. You heal your attachment style. He continued to remain strong in his. You guys could be a great couple. I said, but you got to be honest about the fact that right now you're not sitting in coach. You're probably like in main business. And he's sitting where? She said in first class. I said, so you're probably in seat 8C and he's like in seat 4C. You're not that far apart, but there are levels to this work. And there's levels to us when it comes to healing. And it's clear you're not in the same space. And I said, ma'am, I'm going to take it a step further. I said, who pursued who? She said, well, he pursued me. I said, well, that's cool. I said, was there any point in that pursuit that you realized that maybe he might have been on a different level in terms of his work than you? She said it was. He definitely came across checking boxes that most men that I meet don't check. But I just saw that as being a blessing. And I said, ma'am, there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to be realistic about where we are. And we're living in a time, if I can just be honest with you, a lot of people are asking for partners they're not ready for. There are a lot of people that are asking for healed mates that they're not ready for. And when you get them, it just exposes how much work you have to do. And this is why I told her, I said, I don't want to make this conversation about this, but I did mention to her, I said, ma'am, this is why there are a lot of healed people that are single. One of the many reasons why you have a lot of healed people is not because they can't find anybody. It's not because their DMs are not full. It's not because they don't have options. It's not because people don't want them. But I really believe that when a person is healed, there is an aura around them that is so strong that it shields them from people who are not prepared for them. I said, ma'am, you probably, when you met him and you noticed that he was in a different level or on a different level, if it was going to cause some of this heartache that you're talking about, you probably should have said, hey, sir, I like you. I think you're a great guy. I just think I have more work to do and I'm going to take a step back. Now, he may have seen that as you trying to let him down easy and maybe me not interested. I don't know. If he's secure, he would have took your honesty and he would have really valued it. I said, but we got to stop running after people we're not ready for. And you see this in a lot of this space because a lot of people in this relationship and dating space are pursuing people on paper that they're not ready for. And it's okay if you see someone you like, you're attracted to them, you think they check the boxes, but if you know they check 10 boxes and you check 3, then maybe you're not quite ready to pursue a situation with them. I said, is that fair? She said, it is. I said, let me say this really quickly too. Our culture has a very unhealthy view of love, And it sounds like this man loves you. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And it's clear that you have some affection and affinity for him. I said, but I want you to be very careful with how you're viewing love because our culture has a very unhealthy view of love. And there are 3 things that happen when you're in love. And these are things that are healthy things. She's writing, she grabs her pen. I said, number 1, you operate in freedom. When you are in a healthy love situation, it is filled with freedom, which means it ain't controlling. You're not trying to control what people do. You're not trying to control where people are. You're not trying to control how people show up. You are giving people the opportunity to show up as the version of them that they really are so that you, with your secure self, can determine if that's a version that you want to deal with or if that's somebody you don't. I said, ma'am, healthy love gives people the choice to show up in freedom as they really are. She said, that makes perfect sense. I said, the second thing that happens when you're in love and it's a healthy situation is you respect people's power of choice. You don't try to make choices and decisions for people. You don't try to tell people what to do. And you don't try to tell people all the time what it is that you need. You get to know that person. You can talk about what you need. They can talk about what they need, but you give them the freedom to show up in a way that is most authentic to who they are. I said, because what happens in the dating space, especially in the beginning, people try to show up as the version of themselves that they think you will like. And when that wears off, they revert to what? She said, the version of who they really are. I said, so this is why we got to give people choice. You can be physically attracted to someone. You could be attracted to how they show up. I said, this man checked all the boxes, you said. He's in first class. Let you tell it. But allow him to show up in first class so that you can determine if you want to go up there to first class or if you want to stay back in the back with those cold peanuts. She started laughing and said, Doc, don't do me like that. I said, yeah, thug life, I am. And I said, here's the third thing I want you to remember. I said, when you are in love that's healthy, you respect them enough to be themselves. I said, ma'am, it's clear that he's secure. You said it. And you have to respect that he's secure and respect him to be who he is, and then make the determination if this is something that's going to work for you. And if it doesn't mean you're a bad person, and it doesn't mean he's a perfect person. It simply means that you're operating in a healthy love that supports freedom, gives people the power to choose to be who they are, and it respects and it causes us to respect people enough so that they can be themselves. I said, and when this happens, two people show up as the best version of themselves, and they can move down this love line in a healthy way. She was very thankful, and I'm just so excited. I'm pleased to say she's working on her attachment style. He was really tickled that she had set up some time for us to talk. He's a great follower of my work. He's bought my book, things like that. And they're doing fine. She's healing her style. He's showing her grace as she heals. She's showing him grace for the times every now and then he gets frustrated with her because she every now and then wants to put demands on what he's doing and all of this stuff. But he's giving her grace too. And she's giving him grace, and they're working through it. And they're absolutely a couple that I'm hoping for and rooting for. I hope this story made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.